Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Voice Like a Lion podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Pemberton, and today I'm so excited to share with you not only an amazing entrepreneur, an amazing man of God, but also one of my dearest friends. This is James Zheng, and he is a kingdom business coach who, for the past 10 years, has helped entrepreneurs succeed in business God's way. Really, honestly, one of the biggest inspirations on why I'm doing what I'm doing. Along with his wife, Becky, they co founded and run the Warrior Movement organization that trains online entrepreneurs in the health and wellness industry. He's also the founder of Kingdom Builders, which is an amazing group. I highly suggest you go check that out. A movement committed to providing faith based entrepreneurs with biblical wisdom and success principles with the ultimate goal of elevating God's kingdom. James, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me and excited to meet all of your listeners as well.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's so many people that are going to resonate with you and your story because the people that listen to this, a lot of them are mainly startups, mid market companies. But the really cool thing about them is they're also people of faith, and some of
Mm,
them are not. So,
yeah.
for you guys who are listening, who you are of faith, this one is going to strike a chord with you. If you guys are not of faith, I promise you, there's still going to be nuggets in here you want to pick up and you want to hear because there's so much in your story of perseverance, of resilience, of how you've been able to go through succeeding because you had success and then you lost success and now you're back in success. And just those stories can carry you no matter if it's faith based or not faith based. So honestly, I'm just honored that you're here and I'm excited to have you here.
It's an honor to be here. And I love the different types of people that are listening to this because that's who I was. I was not a person of faith. Like, if you ask me, Stephen, it's like, would you have seen yourself being who you are doing what you're doing right now? I'd be like, you got the wrong guy. And maybe there's a lesson in that sense is that you never know what God has in store for you. I didn't know God, Stephen, when I grew up. I was a shy, broke, nerdy Asian kid going to school, trying to be a doctor, not of faith. And now doing what we're doing, it's just the journey can be so amazing if we go down the path a certain way. So I'm excited to break down many things today as we're recording this on the New Year day. So we're
Yeah.
launching into the new year with this.
Yeah. So that's actually a really great place to start. I'm really interested in that because I saw a post that you put up, I think it was a couple weeks ago, and I interacted with it because I resonated with it so much. We just talked about being an introverted kid. You didn't talk to a lot of people. And one thing that you just said was when you were going through school that you weren't of faith. So my
Yeah.
question is going through that process, what led you to faith?
Absolutely. Definitely not school. It's definitely not the public schooling system where God is out of the picture entirely. So my parents are agnostic. They're immigrants from China. And in China, during their time, there was this thing called the Cultural Revolution, which basically Chairman Mao annihilated everything from faith to everything. So there was nothing. So my faith, if you want to call it that, was work hard, be a good person, right? Like the golden rule. What's so funny, we were just talking about this offline, Stephen, is kingdom principles, they work whether people know their kingdom principles or not. So something that
Yeah.
was common, my parents always told me, was follow the golden rule, right? Treat others the way that you want to be treated, which is obviously from the Bible itself, right? So
Yeah.
anywho, that was like my faith. That was my faith. It was just working hard. And what happened was, and this is why I'm so passionate about entrepreneurship, is when I got introduced to entrepreneurship, network marketing specifically, in 19 years old, I got introduced to the concept of personal growth. So I started listening to the Tony Robbins, the Jim Rohns, the John Maxwell's, these types of things. So I started to grow into my awareness. And one thing that I noticed was that almost every single one of them, they always mentioned something about a spiritual life, about a faith. And I was like, okay, that was cool. You know, the way my mind was, Stephen, was all faiths say the same thing: be a good person, treat others
Hmm.
well, don't kill people, right? I'm like, okay, good, right? I don't need that because I'm gonna pull myself up by the bootstraps and get this down. But the seed was planted. And little did I know, later on, I would meet with Pastor Rick Warren of Saddleback Church, who wrote Purpose Driven Life. We had a meeting with him. This is when I was a person of faith. And he told me his mentor is Billy Graham, the great evangelist.
Well,
And Billy Graham had prophesied that the greatest ministry in the world of today would happen not in the church, it would happen in the marketplace, because that's the culture of the world. Money talks, so to speak. Well, money spoke to me, so to say. And that's what it planted the seeds in me, Stephen, that years later, when I absolutely was devastated, I hit my goal of making enough money in my business to quit my job. And I thought it'd be amazing, but it was devastating. And listener, I want you to think, especially if you're on that journey of faith, have you had a time when you set a goal that's something that you really wanted, that relationship that you want, that money that you want to make, that business you want to build? And have you noticed that when you accomplish it, it's not as satisfying, is it, as the journey of going through it? And that's what happened to me, Stephen. I hit the journey, I hit the goal. I was depressed because I had time to think. And my question was, what's the purpose of life? What is truth? And that led me to faith. That led me to being a Christian. And it's been 11 years since then. It's been amazing.
Well, that's what's really interesting about that is there was a guy we talked about offline, and for him, he was successful. I mean, he sold a company by the time he was 23, I believe, 23,
Mm,
24, sold it for over $1 million.
yeah.
So he could do whatever he wanted. So he goes and he buys an RV and he's traveling around the country. And he tells me about a time he is not a believer.
Hmm.
He told me about a time that he was sitting, he's just like in this dark place. And he goes to his hometown. He walks out onto this dock that goes over the Great Lakes. And he said he sits on the end of it and he's just sitting there alone and he's pondering life,
Mm,
similarly to what you said.
mm,
And he said that this was the first time he really asked. He believed that there's something bigger than him.
mm.
And he still doesn't believe in what that he still doesn't
Right.
know what that is, but he's open.
Right.
And what I find so fascinating is I've heard that story so often, even
Mm,
when I quit my job. At that time, I was of faith, but all I really knew was how to talk to him. I didn't really have this deep relationship. I didn't really go to church. I didn't really read the Bible even.
yeah.
I just kind of knew how to talk to the Lord. I just talked to him.
Yeah.
And I remember when I quit my job, I didn't go to the end of a dock, but what I did was there was this lake nearby, and I
Mm,
went and I sat at this picnic table, and it was 6 o'clock in the morning. There's no one there, and I'm listening to the wind rustling through the trees, and I'm watching as these waves lap up against the shore. And in those moments, that was the moment where I just felt God the most. And
mm,
so that's what I find really interesting is when you are able to disconnect. Like you were saying, when you get to those mountaintops and you go, wait, is this really it? Like, is this
mm,
what I'm here for? Is
mhm,
this moment here? When you get there and you're able to just disconnect from that for a second and just listen and actually be and not just be caught up in the doing, that's where
mm,
you run into him the most. And that's what I love about your story.
mm.
So when you got to this point,
Yeah.
when you finally get there and then you're depressed and you're going, wait, is this it? When what happens next? Like whenever you do discover God, discover that higher calling, what kind of transpires after that?
Absolutely. Well, I wish I could say that everything was rainbows and dandelions and butterflies, but it don't work that way because there's the first step, and kingdom is this. Kingdom is the king's dominion. And
Mm,
what Jesus came here to do was, of course, to save us, but also to give us a different culture. He wants to bring heaven onto earth. And as we do that and we walk that out, that faith journey, it's a whole thing in itself. So, anyone here that's listening, so God's not done with you yet. Like, there's still an opportunity. Abraham was almost 100 years old before he got the promised child. So,
yep.
there's still an opportunity. God's not done. So, it's been a huge journey to really understand. I think at first, when you come to faith, it's what is faith? Like, what
Yeah.
does he say? And that's what the Bible is all about, right? And then after you know what it says, like surface level, you know the stories and you know what the Bible kind of says, and you go to church and stuff like that. Then it's really, how do I take what he says and have that more deep, intentional relationship with him? How do I not just have him on a Sunday and then go throughout my life, but how do I have him every single day and have a relationship? It's so mind boggling, Stephen. And you know this because you have this relationship to still think that the God of this universe, not only he wants a relationship, like he
Yeah.
is jealous of you, like he wants all of you. He wants to be with you in your business. He wants to be with you in your finances. He doesn't just want to be with you for eternity. He wants to be with you right now. And if you can learn how to access his kingdom now in the areas that you want to have access to, specifically, I'm very passionate about business. The transformations are amazing, Stephen, of what can happen.
That's I mean, that's been my exact experience. You were just talking about it earlier with the marketplace being the biggest ministry. And that's what I've seen. I mean, even the guy that we were just talking about, I met him not at church. I didn't meet
Yeah.
him on the street. I met him in the marketplace, and
Hmm.
we were actually talking business. And that's where, if you're listening to this and you are in business, and especially being a kingdom minded entrepreneur, is don't hide your faith. Like, don't
Hmm.
put your light under a basket. Now is not the
Yes.
time, especially with how the world is in this moment. We need more people who are more outspoken, people who
Hmm.
can, and not outspoken in a bad way. Don't be the guy on the street corner with your megaphone yelling that everyone's going to hell. Don't be
Yeah.
that guy. But do be the guy who is sitting there and just showing love, kindness, being the person who is willing to extend a hand to somebody hurting, because that is how you make those genuine interactions. Being the person, we hear this in business, but being the person who adds the most value is the ones that the clients come to. Those are the ones that it's easier to make network to connection, those kind of connections with, because you're adding value. So in the same way, if you're doing it in a kingdom minded way, your business should be operating in that way. And that's what I love about your business, James, is that's how I see you operating even from a distance. Is
Yeah.
it's not just how can I make more money, how can I take care of my family better, how can I get a bigger house, how instead of just being in San Diego can I live on the beach. It's like,
Mhm.
no, maybe it's how do we construct a business that takes care of our clients so well that all of
Mhm.
those things are achievable, but not
Mhm.
on the backs of anyone, but with arm in arm with everyone that we're working with. And
Totally.
so just hearing your story and hearing how you're describing it, that's what I'm so excited to dive in even deeper. Because I mean, I love that you have your book on the shelf talking
Yeah.
about the miraculous breakthrough formula, which for you guys, if you guys didn't know about it, James has a book, Miraculous Breakthrough Formula. It's right there on the shelf.
Yeah.
You can get it paperback. You can get it on. You can get it like I did and get it digital. It's incredible. You need to read it. It's not very expensive, but it's an absolute must read. It's one of my favorite books of 2023.
Wow.
And so that's one of those areas where it's not a prosperity gospel, but there
Mhm.
are things in his word that lead you to these kingdom principles. That's why you see people like Elon Musk and Bill Gates and all these people who may not be Christians, but they are multi billionaires. They're
Mhm.
working in kingdom principles, whether they know it or they don't.
Exactly. And the kingdom principles, they work better with the king in them.
Oh yeah.
So the best way that we can testify to the world is play the game, but use the things that they're already using intentionally, right? Like we have the difference of someone in the kingdom versus someone that's not is if you're not in the kingdom. And this is why I think, especially as entrepreneurs, I think faith is so important. Everything starts from faith, right? Like everything has that root right there. But the difference is we have the Holy Spirit in our life that knows all. See, he's the ultimate coach. He's the ultimate resource. He knows everything about everything. Imagine you could have and we believe in coaching, right?
Yep.
We love masterminds, and I think you should definitely do those. But what if you just had access to God Himself about everything? Like in your business, do we ask God for wisdom? Do we ask God for business plans? Do we ask God for
Mhm.
connections? Do we ask God for prayers? I'll give you a story in our business. So one big aspect of our business is finding leaders, developing leaders. And as you do that, we sell health and wellness products, and we build sales teams online to do that. And one of the big goals that I've had is I've wanted to recruit some heavy hitter leaders, right? All of us do in our business, right?
Yeah.
Leadership is everything. And before I was using kingdom principles, it was all about let me do the best that I can, let me prospect all the time, let me do all these strategies. And I think that you need strategies, of course. But it wasn't leading me to that goal. I was getting new recruits and I was getting new customers, and those are fantastic. But what happened this last year, Stephen, is I made a very intentional shift to say, I'm going to do business God's way. I'm going to pray to Him. I'm going to ask Him for help. I'm going to just submit every single thing to Him. And many times, the things that He tells you to do are way different from what a coaching program might tell you to
Yep.
do. It's not always black and white. I think about the story in the Bible when the prophet tells the king, hey, shoot out these arrows from the tower and you're going to win this war. And you're like, how would shooting arrows randomly just win a war? But the arrows, if you know the story, ends up hitting the king on the other side. They die and then they win. It's like, that's how God works. It says in the word that he uses the foolishness of this world to confound the wise. So many
Yeah.
times we're going to do things that don't make sense. Even you starting this podcast, going this direction, you didn't know exactly what it meant. You told me this offline that a year ago you started this and you did an episode there and then you re-uploaded it and then boom, you had someone actually respond to you. It's like we can't calculate these things. But this last year, We were following these principles, and one day I happened to randomly look at my Instagram stories, and I happened to randomly just connect with somebody. And this person gave me a response that I'm never used to. I was just, I opened with a hi, hello. We do this all the time, right? You should respond
Yep.
to your social media connections. She responds with this huge paragraph. Basically, she said, I've been watching you guys for the last couple of months. I never thought I'd do this again, but it looks really good. They're on board. They're multi seven-figure earners,
Wow.
and they're innovating things. And the reason I bring this up is I know it's because I submitted myself to him and his righteousness, right? Matthew 6:33. If you submit yourself to him and you're obedient, you take the actions. You don't know how it's going to happen, but you know that it will happen at some point. And that's just one example of what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things to unpack right there because on top of just aligning with God and doing it his ways, you had a vision for that. And being able to understand because vision is important. I mean, if you're blind, you don't know where you're going
Yep.
and you are dependent on someone else to lead you. And there's parts of faith that are similar to that where you are led by faith and not by sight. But also having a vision for where you're going, like Habakkuk talks about, is writing
Yeah.
the vision down plainly. I find that to be really important with my business and not just in business, but also in life, with my marriage, with my health, with my parenting, with everything, is having a vision in those areas.
Mm.
Because if you have a vision in those areas and then you sit there and you take it to the Lord, because you can make your plans, like the Lord is fine with you making your plans. Now you got to be fine with giving up your plans.
Yep.
And so when you make your plans, I just take my vision I feel like I get from him and I just resubmit it to him. Hey,
Yeah.
I feel like this is from you, but tell me if this is from you or not. If it's
Mm.
not from you, let's axe this thing because I just want to be in your will. And it
Mm.
usually is nuts. It usually makes no sense what
Yeah.
he does. Like you were saying, shooting the arrows. I mean, there's the story with, I believe it was Elisha, where the king comes to him and Elisha's about to die and he's losing. And he's like, Elisha, what am I supposed to do? And he said, get the arrows out,
Yep.
break the arrows. And he breaks the arrows and he breaks, I think it was three. And
Mm-hmm.
then Elisha said, you should have broken at least six. If you'd have broken at least six, then you would have completely destroyed them, but you'll win
Mm.
this battle. And then Elisha dies. And it's like,
Yep.
but how does breaking arrows change anything? It changed nothing. There's nothing physically that changed, but everything changed spiritually. And
Yes.
that's why it's so important to just be tapped into what he's doing and not just what you're doing. And because again, making those plans, great. Resubmitting those plans, even better. Because what you were saying is having that vision, aligning with him, is bringing some of the biggest network connections that you could possibly ask for without you having to go do it yourself. You're
Yeah.
just living life on purpose. And that's what I love the most about you. It's one of the things I admire the most is you live out loud. You live the good, you live the bad, and you live it for everyone to see. And you let people make that decision before they even get to really know you of who is he? Who is he for real? And you live so transparently that it's easy. I can tell you, everyone listening, if you go and look at James's profile, any of them, the way that he talks there and it's not, he's not just putting on a voice here. This is who he is. Offline, same guy. Online, same guy. That's what I love so much about you. And that's what I'm excited. And this is kind of the question that just came to mind. I feel kind of led to ask
Yeah.
this is what is the vision that you have for 2024? Not just a New Year's resolution, but what is the
Absolutely.
actual, what is your vision?
So I learned this thing called a goal card.
Mm,
Right. It's very simple. You talked about Habakkuk, right? There's
yeah.
principles to writing things down. The card's not magical, writing's not magical, but it's an intention, right? And on this goal card, I have three major things. And I would encourage every single person here, if you've never asked the question that Stephen asked, which is, Lord, what do you want for me in my life? Like Tony Robbins says, the quality of your life is determined by the quality of your questions.
Yeah.
So if we ask him, and it's a promise that he will give you wisdom freely without any reproach, James 5:16. Right. So I asked them these questions. I'm like, what would success in life look like for me? And he built three things. So the visions are number one, kingdom builders, as that faith-based business support, being the number one resource in the world. We're running our business team called the Warrior Movement in the health and wellness space to be the number one team in this company, to be over $1 million a year in that, and then also a vision for our family.
Wow.
We've had prophetic words and many different things of having four children, which even now seems impossible, but what's impossible with man is possible with God, right? So We've had fertility issues and journey on that as well too, as we talked about offline.
Yeah.
But still, I have that here. And what I have him a card. And this might be something people might want to do. Ask him, put it on your card. I put in Jesus' name, amen. And then I have some Bible verses on the back. Is Habakkuk on this? Habakkuk 2, 2 to 3 is on this,
Oh,
for
there you go.
example. So put some promises and everything. So that's my personal vision for this upcoming year and years.
Yeah. There's there's something I do want to share with you.
Yeah.
It just came to me right now. This is something the Holy Spirit gave me. Is there is a couple in our church who they struggled with infertility for years. They wanted kids for years and years and years. They had multiple people pray over them. They got prayed over on stage, everything. Nothing changed until a few months ago. And a few months ago, they they just now told everyone past couple weeks they're expecting. So that's one of those things where they didn't go do. There was nothing that they did that
Mm,
changed, but everything changed because the Holy Spirit had told them just
mm,
same way that you've been told that to expect children. If He's
mm.
telling you to expect, expect. Because I've watched it happen. I've seen it with my own eyes. That these people who had tried for years, gone to multiple different doctors, everyone telling them there's no way. Even the doctors do not understand how this baby right now
Yeah.
is is actually just normal
Wow.
because the baby's still in her stomach. She has all these health complications that were keeping her from getting pregnant,
Wow.
and they were saying that if she ever did get pregnant, that the baby was going to have so many complications and it'd be undersized and she wouldn't go to term and all these things.
Yeah.
And the baby is healthy and
Oh,
that has no health complications. There is nothing wrong with the baby in the slightest. So my
talk smart.
encouragement to you is that what He does for one, He will do for another.
Yes.
And I'm not just sharing that and saying that to you, but that's what I feel led to tell you, that
Thank
you are
you.
walking into your season, that you and Becky are going into your season, and just continue to remain open and expectant for more.
I
And
accept.
yes, yeah, that was just something I wanted to drop in there. But
Thank you. And for anyone that's listening
absolutely.
as well, put alongside, and as you're talking, it reminded me, I have a word for this year. You know, we prophetically, we were in the car one day and I'm talking to my wife, Becky. I'm like, so what's our word for this year? Right. And there's a lot of cool words out there: breakthrough and growth and success. And the word that came to our mind was miracle.
Mm,
We have prophesied and we're standing on that this is a year of miracles. And miracles just being something, for us, we know where miracles come from God Himself. Things that happen in your business, things that happen in your life, things that happen in your marriage, things that happen in your children, things that happen in any single thing that are so remarkable that you cannot explain it except that God did it Himself. Just like what you
yeah,
said with the couple in your church as well too. So for anyone that's listening, if you're willing to claim and stand on that same word that this year for you will be a year of miracles, I mean, let's even know. Shoot him a message. You know, I'm sure he would want to know it and actually pray with you through it
yeah,
and be accountable to that as well. That's what you're really good at, Stephen. I just have to say this. There's so many people in this world that put up a good front. They sound good. They seem like they have a good heart, but you see how their actions are afterwards, and it does not have congruity with that. You are so congruent in the way that you are. You are a friend. You are a prayer warrior. You're someone that genuinely loves people, and you actually mean it. Like you're a rare breed in this world, my friend. So I appreciate that. And anyone that's listening, just know that's who Steven is as well too. So keep on following him and his stuff. You want to get close to his circle because he's a good friend.
thank you. I really appreciate that. And just to kind of confirm something you just said, because you felt like the word for the year for you guys was miracle, is I was walking on the treadmill the other day early in the morning, and I felt the Lord say that. He said, "You're walking into a miracle season."
Hey,
So just a confirmation right there. That's the word.
let's
And
go.
so, yes, that I love when the Holy Spirit just jumps into something. And this is what we're talking about, especially in business. When you submit your plans to Him, when you sit
Yeah.
there and you say, okay, Lord, what are we doing today? You
Yep.
lead it. You lead my hands. You lead my mind. Is there'll be those little spur moments, just like we had right here live, is He will lead it in His own direction for
Yeah.
His own good, for His own glory. Because there's somebody that needs to hear what we're saying right now. There's somebody out there more than just you and I talking, that are going to resonate with what's happening here. And for those of you who you're hearing this and maybe you're just like, hey, this doesn't connect with me at all, is just think about that still small voice.
Mm,
Maybe you don't believe in God, but all of a sudden you'll just be working one day and you'll have an idea and you'll go, I don't know where the idea came from.
yeah.
Just lean on that. I'm not saying that we're going to, we're going to pray together right now, but what I am saying is just pay attention to where these ideas are coming from,
Mm,
because the Lord gives wisdom. He elevates those he wants to elevate. And so when those things happen, is just pay attention to, wait, that's not my idea.
yeah.
Because we hear this, Tony Robbins talks about it, it's like there's no new thoughts. That's what
Mhm.
Solomon talks about in Ecclesiastes, is there's nothing new under the sun. So if we are to believe that biblically, you got King Solomon saying this, you've got Tony Robbins over here saying something very similar, then if that is not your thought,
Mm,
then maybe you should say, okay, where did I get this thought? And just
mm,
venture down the rabbit trail for a moment, see where
yeah.
it leads you. But
Exactly.
James, honestly, this is incredible. Question
Yeah.
is, what led you to write the miraculous breakthrough formula?
I think for most people, and myself included in this, it's desperation.
Mm,
When you go through something that puts you flat on your back and saying, I need something. So what happened was, this was just over a year ago. And we had especially being an entrepreneur, we're taught to have a vision board. We're taught to set
yeah,
goals. And then, of course, even in the kingdom minded principles, like it's so important to have God-sized goals and God-sized dreams. Like one of ours, because we had lost we had a dream home before, we lost it through many different reasons. And we were in this rebuilding phase. So we said one day in the future, we will have another dream home. So we got on the list of this dream home. And finances were tough, but it was one of those things where, like, okay, if we stretch it, maybe we can figure it out, especially being an entrepreneur. Like,
yeah,
you kind of say yes on faith and expect the business to grow in that sense, type of thing. So it was growing. And all of a sudden, I wonder if the listeners ever had this happen before. If you've ever had a time when it was just that straw that broke the camel's back, you had one too many blows that knocked the wind out of you. Like, you can take a couple, but when you took that, let's say you can take three blows, and then you got the fourth one, and it just knocked you out. That's what happened. We lost our down payment literally a day after we got news that we got on the list for this house, Stephen. We got news that our down payment got lost because we had it in this quote unquote safe investment that went to nothing. So literally
well,
went to nothing. We're like, all right, that sucks, but it's okay. We got a business, right? We can make money. Then we find out that the company we'd partnered with for like 10 years was actually going bankrupt, little to our awareness. And we're like, oh my God, this is crazy. So we end up going on a vacation that we had won through our business. We're in Tahiti. And it's one of those times where you're like, I just want to escape.
yeah,
Like, have you had one of those times, Stephen, where like, I just
oh
got to
yeah,
get away, right? And God speaks to you. Maybe that's some encouragement for somebody. If you feel like things have just been crazy, that still small voice, as what you said, Stephen, is important to listen to. God's always speaking. We're just not listening.
yeah,
So we go out to vacation, and earshot, the new owner of this company we had partnered with, um, we were in dinner together, and he said this thing called I did a fast. And he was talking about extended water fasts. I'm like, that's interesting. Because at this time, I'm praying for a miracle. At this time, I'm praying for whatever is going to work. And I was trying to do everything that we have control of, right? Work harder in
yeah,
your business, do all of that type of stuff. Nothing's working. I'm like, I need something different. And we ended up talking and diving into water fast. And all of a sudden, I started to remember, I'm like, well, Moses fasted and he got the 10 Commandments. David fasted. Esther fasted and she prevented a whole genocide. Jesus fasted. I'm like, is there some type of principle here of breakthrough of fasting? And it seems weird, right? Stephen, it's like, how does not eating lead to any type of breakthrough? We're used to an entrepreneurial world, work harder, hustle harder, get a
yep,
new plan, like, and those are good, of course, but this is different. So I decided to embark on my first extended water only fast and did it for 7 days because, to be symbolic, Jericho, the walls of Jericho went down in 7 days. God gave Joshua a weird plan of marching around Jericho for
yep,
6 days, and it was like the seventh it went down, right? And then so I did that. with a combination of prayer and Bible study. Because fasting, what it does is it disconnects yourself from the world so you can be retuned with your spirit. When you
That's
starve
good.
your flesh, you feed your spirit. When you read his word, it's how God connects with you. God speaks primarily through what he's already spoken. And of course, when you pray, it's you connecting back with him, you speaking with him, you aligning your will with his will. In 7 days, Stephen, the most amazing things happen. Financial miracles happen. I actually had 5 questions that I had gone into. So if anyone has if you want to try something like this, go in with intentional questions. I'm actually about to embark on, pray for me, my friend. I'm literally tomorrow going to embark on a 21-day water only fast.
Wow.
So I felt led to the Lord to
Yeah.
do that. I got a list, I'm like, all right, God, breakthrough. And is anything too hard for God? No.
No.
So ask him for these things. All those 5 questions that I had got answered. And long story short, we are now in this home. Everything got funded for and more. We just did our finances for this last year. It was our most profitable year of our entire lives.
Wow.
Even
Praise
with
God.
seriously, it's like, oh my gosh. And it's not like we're stressing out about it. It's like, wow, the numbers actually kind of just work out, right? Everything got answered. The business, the company went bankrupt. The best thing happened. It got bought out by new owners. They're taking the company to a different place. And it's like miracle upon miracle upon miracle. And I can directly attribute it to me doing what I then wrote in the miraculous breakthrough formula of just what's the miracle? Very simple. A miracle is when you have God in your life. So if you want a miracle in your life, the cheat code, do whatever it takes to get into his presence.
Yep.
Because it's only by him through everything that you're doing in submission to him that will lead to that miracle. So praise God for everything.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so, so good. That's one of the when I talk about fasting, I just started fasting 3 years ago. Yeah, 3 years ago was when, no, 4 years ago almost now. Crazy. That I did my first ever fast.
Wow.
And I remember that first fast. I've come so far after that from that first fast. That first fast, I was close to 280 pounds, and I just remember I wasn't fasting nothing. I was eating everything. And there, my wife had come to me. I was in the middle of playing video games on Twitch because I was going to be the next best Twitch streamer, I guess, in the
Hey,
middle of
let's
growing
go.
my business.
What
But
game? What game were you playing?
so Call of Duty at that
Oh,
time, Modern
dude,
Warfare is what I was playing. I was
there
playing
you go.
Warzone. I mean, that's a whole different
You're right.
conversation. It's funny though because I mean, at that time I just quit my job. I didn't know what I was doing. Like my wife had already been running the business, so for her, she was like, "Do this, this, and this," and it just works. And I'm just like, I don't even know how to turn the computer on. Can you help me out? It's like I don't know what I'm doing, and I just found myself being lost in freedom. I guess having this free time, I didn't know what to do with it, so I just played video games. So I remember one night I was staying up late, and my wife comes to me, and I'm sitting there and I'm streaming, and she walks in, and I just look over at her, and she's crying. So I take my headset off, and I'm just like, okay, what's going on? She said, you need to get off, and I need to talk to you right now. And so I shut everything down. We go outside, and she sits down. She said, hey, the Lord just spoke to me, and he said that you need to go away for 2 days and you need to fast. Again, never fasted. And I said, okay. And she said, no, you need to go away for 2 days. You need to fast, or you're gonna die. And I went, sign me
Wow.
up right now. Where do we go? We're like, I'll go right now.
Dude.
And it was really interesting because my mom, she texted me a little while later and she said, hey, Brittany told me what's going on. I'm on my way. Mind you, that's an 11-hour drive.
Wow.
So she understood what it meant for me to go away. So my
Mm,
mom comes into town, I leave, and so I'm gone for 2 days. And it was grueling for me because I only fasted one day. It was only
yeah.
24 hours. But
Right.
I went and I had like the half-gallon Chuck Norris waters, and I'm sitting there just curled up in the floor, just honestly thinking I'm gonna die.
Yeah.
But what was amazing is I went in expectant. I went in with a question, and I
Mm,
went in with what are we supposed to do? Because our business was shut
mhm,
down.
mhm.
We were about to run out of money. We didn't know what to do next, and we really didn't want to be homeless. So I'm sitting there in
Mhm.
this hotel room, and I'm fasting, and I'm drinking this Chuck Norris water. And I remember even then, I wasn't doing everything right. I was still
Yeah.
battling pornography. So I'm
Mhm.
literally watching porn on a fast to
Yeah.
get closer to the Lord. And
Yeah.
he still gave me a word that changed everything for us.
Wow.
So the Lord is not dictated based
Mhm.
on who you are, whether
Yes.
you're good or bad. He's dictated on who he is and who his character is. And I just know that there's been so many, exactly what you were saying, is
Mm,
going in expectant, going in with questions, going in and saying, okay, God, this is what I'm wanting to get out of this time with you, and being intentional. When people talk to me about fast now, they say, why do you fast? For me, being spirit led is I just want to turn down the static. It's like a
yes.
radio,
Yep.
especially when I was growing up, my dad's old truck. Is anytime you're trying to find the right radio station, you could be one dial off and it's
Mm,
just staticky. You can hear the song kind of, and you can tell by the melody that it's what you want to hear, but you just aren't dialed in enough for you to
mhm.
hear exactly what it's saying. And when you go on a fast, it's just turning that knob one
Yes.
dial over so you can exactly hear what he's trying to tell you. Because, like
Yes.
you said, is he's talking all the time, but a lot of times our own flesh gets in the
Yep.
way. So when you let your flesh be quiet, when you
Mhm.
put that thing in submission and crucify your flesh and say,
Yes.
you know what, we're going without food and we're going to just have this water. And I'm doing this not just to have the health benefits, because there are real scientific health benefits,
Oh, yeah.
but not just for the health benefits. I'm doing this to get closer to the Lord so he
Yes.
can direct my steps. That's when you start seeing the miraculous breakthroughs. So I just love
Yeah.
that. And I just thank you for taking the time to walk us through why you did that. Because,
Absolutely.
yes, honestly, same exact spot. I did mine because I was in a place of desperation.
Yep.
And that's where he works best. He
Yeah.
works best in the trauma.
Yeah.
That's where you
Ab-
have triumph, is in the trauma. It's
eh,
wrapped up there.
Love it. And even afterwards too, because I think none of us want to stay in desperation. Like obviously
Yes.
when backs against the wall, like things will happen, right? But I'd also encourage people, let's say you're past that breakthrough moment already, right? We've all been through some things. Wouldn't we like to just live in that state all the time? You know? So it's
Mm,
like if we just stay, and that's why even to this day, I still regularly fast at least once a week. Like I do a 1 day fast. I aim to. I'm not perfect all the time, but I try to. Just all these little things. It's like brushing your teeth. You know, what are these principles and habits you can do to stay in connection with the Lord and to continue to have these breakthroughs? It'll continue to work. God does not only answer when we're desperate. God can answer
yes.
when we're at the top of the mountain. You know, it's like that's fine as well too. So keep that up. And for anyone that's considering a fast, of course, you can check out the book and stuff. But I know one limiting belief for me, Stephen, was, man, I'm gonna like die if I don't eat for a day. Like I used to eat I'm the type of person that I eat breakfast and then I'm thinking about lunch, and I'm always in
Yep.
my food.
Same.
You know, scientifically, it's been proven already, and these are non-religious types of things. Scientists and doctors actually lead cancer patients in 40-day water-only fast to kill the cancer. You can look at the research and everything. So your body literally can survive without food for over 40 days. If you feel like you're dying of hunger, you're not dying of hunger. Your stomach's just talking too much.
Yep. That's there's these two gentlemen that the Lord actually introduced me to a couple weeks ago, and they have a huge vision and huge calling on their life. And what's crazy is, for me, I'm walking into supporting them in this. And one thing that they are doing as a company, as an entire company, is they are doing 40 days. Like the leadership team is doing 40 days water only. That's what
Dang.
they all sat. No, they sat together and prayed, because one dude felt led to do it, and he said, "Hey, I don't want anyone else to feel led to do it just because I'm doing it." But they all sat there and they prayed, and they all felt led to basically consecrate the
Wow.
beginning, the first 40 days of this year, and just give God all of it. So they're just doing water 40 days. So I just think, I
Amazing.
mean, it's not just for the Bible. Like the Bible is a roadmap for how we're supposed to live today. So
Mhm.
I'm not saying everyone's got to go be Moses or be Jesus and go out into the desert and go fast for 40 days and just have water. I'm definitely not saying that. But the same as you were saying in your book is just pray and ask. It's like, what am I
Mhm.
supposed to do? Am I supposed to do 1 day? Because for me, I was supposed to fast 1 day.
Yeah.
Then the other times it was fasting 3 days. And just asking him, what does that look like? Am I supposed to do water only? Am I supposed
Right.
to just cut out? Am I supposed to cut out all social media?
Yeah.
What am I supposed to do? Because he may lead differently. Yes,
Right.
I think that it is important at some point in time to do a water only fast. I feel like that it does turn the static down, but also it's important just do whatever he's telling you. More
Exactly.
important than anything else, more than what I'm saying, more than what James is saying, is, if you're listening to this, is just listen to what he's saying,
Mhm.
because the obedience is the breakthrough.
Yeah.
The money, the fame, the fortune, whatever it is that's not the breakthrough. The breakthrough is when you obey.
Yes. Well said. Mic drop on that, brother. That was great.
Man, this is I listen, I love this conversation. We could keep it going all day, but I want to give you a little bit of time to talk about the kingdom builders, because I really would love for the people listening to have the opportunity to connect with you, connect with the community. So, would you mind just giving us a little bit more about where they can find that and where they can find you? And also, what is the kingdom builders? What does that look like, and how do people get plugged into it?
Absolutely. So, Kingdom Builders was an answer to a question I asked the Lord, which was, especially being an entrepreneur, like we're always looking for breakthrough principles, we're always looking for self help and personal growth, and all that's great. But I asked the Lord, I'm like, one thing that I find interesting is that even though pretty much every single personal development thing comes and is rooted in kingdom principles, whether they know it or not, there isn't much that is overtly kingdom. Like, you
Yeah.
don't, when you YouTube, I was YouTubing how to succeed as a Christian, for example, Christian wealth, these types of things. Very little. There's something, but very little in comparison to the rest of what is on that topic, non-spiritual. And I have this burden, and I'm like, Lord, why isn't this out there? Like, how do we fix this? And this could be a word for anybody. That angst, that grief, that frustration, that nagging passion in you might be God's sign that you're the one to step in that and solve the problem. So I felt from the Lord, He said, figure this out. Start to bridge the gap between faith and entrepreneurship. Because if the greatest ministry is going to happen in the marketplace, we need to equip marketplace ministers. We need to make sure that they know how this works. Use my ways to bring my kingdom to the world. So I started to do that. So if you follow Kingdom Builders, we have a primarily on YouTube is the best place to go to. So just go to my YouTube, James C. Zheng, Zheng. I've done amazing podcasts with people, including like our special host here, Stephen, which was an incredible conversation. But these types of conversations to shed light on what does it mean to actually be a kingdom-minded entrepreneur? What does it mean to be led by the Lord? Like when I hear your story, Stephen, I'm like, man, you have such a relationship with the Lord. I think there's a lot of people that are listening. You might be in that place. You're like, I'm Christian, but I don't walk with him like that. Can I walk with Jesus in my business? What does that look like? Can I ask the Holy Spirit for guidance? What does that look like? These conversations will shed light onto that. We have a Facebook group as well too. And I'm also building as we speak. I'm excited. We're building a course on how to succeed God's way. So stay tuned. I'm going to be dropping a lot of stuff on my YouTube and stuff. So just follow that, and I think it'll bless you.
Wow, that's incredible. Everyone listening, please go get plugged in. I am not just someone who I invited James on and I'm not plugged in. I've been plugged into his stuff. I follow his stuff all the time. I'm interacting with his social medias. I'm interacting in Kingdom Builders. Make sure that you check out this content, because again, it has you get disproportionate returns when you are networking with people like James and the people in the Kingdom Builders. You get disproportionate returns because you're plugging into other people's knowledge, other people's wisdom, their journeys, their testimonies, and you're able to see what it looks like to actually walk with the Lord. Because I promise you, I'm sitting in a miracle right now. This place we're in, we shouldn't be in, but He got us here, and we got 2 months free. So it's like He
Hey,
gave us extra for our mess. And so what I'm trying to tell you is not a prosperity gospel. What I can tell you is that He's still in the business of working miracles. And the
yes,
best place to see where this stuff is happening, to understand what can I do to get plugged into His will for my life, is go be a part of Kingdom Builders. Go get plugged in with James. Go get plugged in with Becky. And hey, you may be somebody who wants to go further, faster in their business as well. Make sure to check out James and Becky and what they have going on. I believe in the warrior movement. I believe in you guys so much. And I love you, bro. I'm so thankful for you
thank
being
you.
here. And for my listeners, thank you once again for joining me on Voice Like a Lion podcast. And until next time, I'll see you guys around.
Thank you.